Welcome to Talking Technology with NCBI Labs, where we believe that technology is the single greatest enabler for people with sight loss and all disabilities. If you are interested in the latest technology news, products, and innovations, then you've come to the right place.
Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the NCBI Talking Technology podcast with NCBI Labs. Welcome along. It is the 22nd of November. We're nearly at Christmas. Can you believe it? It's even toy show week. We're that close now. We're nearly through the year. But anyway, we'll hold off on the Christmas chat for this episode. We'll do all that next episode. But today we do have a packed show for you. We're going to be talking all about the new AirPods Pros. Very exciting stuff there indeed. We'll be chatting about the iPhone SE 2, a brand new version of the iPhone SE. Is it good? Is it bad? We'll be finding out from Joe later on. And your regular host, Daniel, will be here to tell you all about the latest Black Friday deals. Black Friday is this week, and our Daniel, he's one man for deals. He knows everything about them, and he's got all those coming up later on in the show. So before all that, though, let's go to the smart home. The smart home has done so much for us. We can talk to our smart speakers, we can play games with them, ask them the time, we can turn on and off the lights. We can do so much, but what can they do for us when it comes to security? Joe, our resident smart home brainiac, I'm going to call you a brainiac, Joe. Sorry.
You're very kind of.
No. Yeah, it's true. He's here to tell us all about what the smart home can do to make your home that little bit more secure. Joe, how are you?
Hi, David. How are you? I'm grand, thanks.
Good. So, Joe, I suppose just to get us started, what can the smart home do for security? Like, we often think of the smart home as turning on and off our lights and doing all those fancy bits and bobs, but what can it do to make the home a little bit safer?
Well, of course, the lights will come into it, making your home a little bit more secure. Well, first I start off saying about that this won't replace anything you do with your smart home. It won't replace the security system you already have in your home. So if you have a professionally installed security system that you've always used, this won't replace it. This will just enhance or maybe make your home a little bit more secure or give you more peace of mind in your own mind. You know what I mean? So I suppose the first thing I could talk about that I have would be a Ring video doorbell. So your front door, like if you're living in a terraced house, the first place that someone's going to try and get into your house is the front door. So at least with a Ring video doorbell, you can screen who is at your front door before you let them in or before you decide to answer it or whatever, you know. So
how do you do that, Joe? Then let's say you come to my door and I have to make a decision then. Jesus, do I want Joe now or do I send him on his merry way? How do I know that it's you at the door as opposed to a stranger that I don't know?
Yeah, so first of all, whatever way you set up your doorbell, you can set it up to a chime, which you can buy. It's like a ringer inside your house, or you can set it to ring on your smart speaker, and you'll hear it ring on your smart speaker, and you can decide to answer it on the smart speaker, or you can also set it up to the Ring app on your phone, both ways. So you can answer it on the phone or the smart speaker, and when you answer it, you can say who's there or how can I help you or whatever way you want to answer the door, and it'll be two-way conversation. So there's a microphone on the outside and there's a microphone on the inside. So you'll be either using the microphone on the smart speaker or the microphone through the Ring app. And then you can, if you know the person, you can let them in, or it could be a delivery man for that matter. That's another safety thing, I suppose. You get deliveries a lot. To what you do with the parcel, if you're not there, you can answer them on the Ring app and you can tell them leave the parcel over the side gate or in with a neighbour or whatever you find is the safest place, or you decide is the safest place to leave that parcel. So yeah, and I suppose with the Ring app on your phone, when you get it first, you can get 30 days free to Ring Connect, and then you can decide if that's your thing, because Ring Connect allows you to look back on events So an event is a video recording of the person that was at your front door, basically. So it records their movement at the front door, their face or whatever is in the picture. So if you weren't in the house, you get another sighted person to have a look through the event, and you can also listen to the noise in the background or the recording of the voice. They might have said something, so you can get a good kind of view on what might have happened when you're away from your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So, and does this differ much then, Joe, from, let's say someone isn't too tech savvy, they don't have the smart speaker, you know, does the Ring doorbell do much the same then as a traditional intercom system, but just have the added bonus of a camera and, say, notifications when you're not there? What are the main differences between, you know, the Ring device and the really old traditional intercom system?
Yeah, so the old intercom system, I used to have one of them years ago myself. I suppose 8-9 years ago, I had one of those where you have it wired up with electrician. You have an intercom speaker outside the door on the pillar of the door, and inside then maybe in your kitchen you'd have a handset or a telephone that you can pick up and say who's there. But like, you see, some people don't like smart speakers, or they might not want smart speakers in their home, you know. So, or even they mightn't have a smartphone. So, the Ring system or a Nest system or any other smart system that you might have purchased, TP-Link is another brand. All these brands, they mightn't suit somebody like that. So, an intercom is an alternative. That's an alternative way of screening people at your door. Generally, you won't get a camera with that, and definitely not an accessible camera system anyway. So it is an analog system that might suit some people out there that
fair enough
are not, we'll say, very, very tech savvy, or they mightn't have mightn't be into smartphones or speakers, but you know, they at least they'll have some sort of a system that they can add to their home to make it a little bit more safer before you answer a door, because there is a lot of cold callers out there these days.
Yeah.
And you just need to be that extra bit cautious.
Absolutely. And just before we continue, if you do have a question that you want to ask Joe or any of the panelists throughout the show as well, and you're joining us live, you can send us a message through the Q&A panel in Microsoft Teams, or email labs@ncbi.ie. That's labs@ncbi.ie. Now, Joe, you mentioned the accessibility there. How accessible are things like the Ring app? You know, are they pretty good for, say, a voiceover user, or could they do with some improvement?
Yeah, personally, I think it's I'm a good voiceover user, I suppose. So once you set up the Ring app on your iPhone, voiceover will read all the elements on the screen. The only place it falls down slightly is when you do answer a Ring event or a doorbell event at your door through the app. Voiceover speech goes a little bit lower, so it is a little bit difficult to hear. You can hold it a little bit closer to your ear maybe, and eventually you'll find the microphone button to turn it on and you can speak back to the person.
It's a bit like when you're going on a call then, is it?
Sound ducking. It kind of the sound ducks a bit, and it does go a little bit low once you go into a real-time live call. Yeah, it goes a little bit low. That's probably, that's the only place it lets it down a little bit, but I still find it usable. Like, I mean, sometimes my son's friends might call at the door and we could be down the park, and at least I can talk through the phone and say, we'll be back in the house in half an hour, and they'll say okay, and we'll call back then. You know what I mean? It's handy for things like that.
Yeah, that is handy. That's really handy.
Yeah, and I said there earlier, it's handy for the package situation. But yeah, as accessibility goes, and the fact that if you're not very good on the phone, even when you're in the house, at least the fact that you can set it to a smart speaker makes it very accessible. And the command for answering the front door is usually the A word. I won't say it out loud. And you can say talk to the front door. And then you can have two-way speech through your smart speaker on the front of the house. And then also another thing you can do, if you had some vision and you have a big TV, you can say the A word again, and you can say, show me the front door on the TV. And then it'll appear on your big screen, and if you have some vision, you'll be able to see that person on your big screen. So you have
That's
might have
really
a
cool.
55 inch or something, and you might have to go up close and see. Oh, do I know that person? Yeah, oh, grandest, it could be your mother or something. You let her in, so
Yeah,
that would be
exactly.
the
Or
yeah,
not, as the case
yeah,
may
or
be.
not, yeah.
So,
Lock them out, one or the other.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Whatever suiting yourself. And Joe, I guess, when it comes to, I guess, the Ring device, then, you mentioned about the kind of two-way talk on it. Is the microphone, pretty good on it? The speaker pretty good? Is it generally like does it have, like, is it very functional? Would you say
yeah.
it's really good?
I think it's very functional. I think the quality of the video, first of all, if you're looking on a TV or your phone screen, it's HD, so it's 1080 HD. So it's very it's a quality picture on the phone. Yeah. Sometimes it can depend on your Wi-Fi connection or even your 5G or 4G connection when you're out and about as well. They can get a bit the connection can go a bit down. It's like any FaceTime or video call or anything you might be on. Connection can have an effect on it.
Yeah.
But generally, I find the quality of the call is very good, unless the person is standing a little bit too far away from the microphone. That can also have an effect on it. But mine is in the porch, and it's generally a person stands in under the porch, and they'd be talking to me. So I haven't had a problem with it yet, And I find that I've heard the person clearly 99% of the time. Put it that way.
Fair enough. Good to hear. And
Yeah.
and I guess, outside of things that like the video doorbells, then Joe, around, we talked earlier on about, smart lights, and those, I guess, can be used in a way for smart home security too, can they?
Yeah, well, smart lights. I suppose the way smart lights would work out is you can turn them on when you're away from home through your smartphone, or you can set routines to come on at a certain time, and then it can maybe trick intruders to think that there is somebody in the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
It's like
I
the old
suppose
trick of leaving the
yeah.
radio on, isn't it?
Yeah. I think people always done this. They always left the light on. Just this time we can do it remotely. You know what I mean? That's what
Yeah,
smart home
exactly.
technology is all about. Doing things remotely and being able to turn things on and off when you're not there. You know what I mean? So that's where that comes into it. So on a dark winter's evening, you're going out for a bite to eat. There's nobody home. You can just turn the lights on in certain rooms. Maybe your front sitting room or one upstairs, and we have two LED smart lights on. LED lights don't use up that much energy, I suppose. So leaving them on for a few hours, it's better peace of mind than not having them on, I suppose.
And you can make it look like your home, I guess. Then
Exactly. That's the whole point. So as I said, these things won't replace an alarm system or anything like that, but they will enhance or make it look like someone is at home. Yes. So the other thing, I suppose, we were going to mention, apart from lights, was indoor cams, wasn't it? I think
Yeah.
you can. There's an extra way of making your house more. I suppose keeping an eye on your house a little bit more. Even you could keep an eye on the dog, or a pet dog, or a guide dog when you're out. Even so, you can put up some stick-up cams. You can get Ring stick-up cams. You can also get Nest versions of these. Generally, the stick-up cams are fairly cheap. They're in around between 60 and 80 euros mark, and you can stick them up anywhere in the home. You can get battery versions of them, or you can get plug-in versions of them. And they're so small you can hide them behind shelves or things so that they can't be ripped down in case somebody did just go into the house and pull them down, that kind of way. So,
and you can also drop in on things like Amazon Echo Shows and stuff as well if you wanted to use them in that way, can't you?
Exactly. Like the cameras have microphones on them as well, or you can, as you said, you can drop in on an Amazon Echo Show, and Amazon Echo Show has a camera on it, and it won't detect motion and tell you there's someone there, but you can drop in anytime to check in on the house. You know what I mean? You can listen in if you, maybe even if there's a dog in the house, you could listen in and see is everything okay, or it could be the camera could be pointed at a certain area, so you could check in on what's going on.
Yeah.
Google do speaker, the Google Nest Hub and the Google Nest Hub Max, they have settings on them to detect motion. So they a bit similar to the Google Nest Cam. So they will detect motion and send you a notification if they feel that there's motion in the house, and then with the HD camera you'll be able to see what's going on at home. So
it's interesting, isn't it, that like the Amazon over in the US, they've got a Alexa Guard, it's called, and Alexa Guard basically allows you to tell your smart speaker when you're leaving the house, and it'll then listen for things like the sound of glass breaking or any form of movement in the house to indicate, and it can then send a notification to your phone. It's a shame in a way that stuff doesn't exist in Ireland, that you do have to buy additional bits if you want to get that functionality.
Yeah, that is a shame that feature isn't here in Ireland yet. A lot of these features seem to come maybe a year or 2 years after they appear in the US. But I think that feature is in the US a long time at this stage, so it doesn't look like it's coming here. Doesn't look like it's coming here anytime soon. But look, as I said, at least we can buy the cheaper cameras. They're not very, very cheap, but in my opinion, if you can put a couple of €59 cameras around the home to add an extra peace of mind, it's worth it,
For sure.
If you're feeling that way. Also, I was going to mention, you might have a backyard or some kennels outside, or even if you had a home office built outside, they're also useful for putting in those kind of areas. And the backyard, I suppose, you can buy a floodlight cam or a spotlight cam. They can be a bit more expensive. You're going up towards the €200 mark, but you can have two-way conversation through these as well. And the good thing about these is that you have a siren you can turn on. So if you notice an intruder in your back garden, you can press the siren and it might frighten away somebody, or at least maybe just let them know they're being watched, or it gives you some sort of benefit that way.
Could I add in something there, Joe? Just while you're on about that, security of a house and things like that. Even if somebody was still there, living in the house. Let's say you had somebody who's vulnerable, maybe, but they're still living on their own, or maybe elderly or whatever, and they can share the access to these Ring doorbells and cameras and all, through the app. You can give someone else access to it. So maybe a family member that lives nearby or whatever, they can also drop in and see what's happening. So there's another layer of security on that.
That's right, Daniel. Yeah,
outside the home as well, which I think is a great thing to mention, because maybe some people living on here, they might have vulnerable relatives that are still living on their own, and especially these long dark nights now. Is there something that can be set up that's easy, accessible, and to just keep an eye on things for extra security?
Exactly. In the Ring app, especially, there is an option to share. It has a two-factor authentication option, so it is very secure, the share part of it. So as I said, if you might have an elderly relative that you keep an eye on, or maybe help out, you can share it with your husband or your wife or other family members. You can share it with somebody that's doing dog sitting for you, or things like that when you're away. So there is loads of Ring gives loads of options to share with friends or family. And as we were just saying, the drop-in feature. The drop-in feature is also it can have a lot of privacy issues, but if you're working closely with someone that's vulnerable, the drop-in feature can be useful to drop in and have a chat with somebody that might need it, or just have a check-in. And you don't always have to drop in, I suppose, quietly. You can also drop in with a call to a speaker, so the person won't get a fright that someone's dropped in. They can get a little Ring notification or a little ringtone, and then they can answer the speaker
anyway, doesn't it?
You have a slight chirp, but it's very low. But you can also call it. Just if the person doesn't like being dropped in on, they say just call me. You can call the speaker as well, so they can be called in that way.
And it's important to point out that this is always an optional feature. You don't have to leave your drop-in enabled if you don't want to. So that is, I suppose, important to point out.
It has to be allowed. Yeah, it has to be allowed by the person that's in the house as well. You know what I mean? It has to. It's very for data protection and privacy features. It has to be really allowed, and you have to be very careful with them kind of things. But it's useful that it's there for them situations.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Now we've spoke, Joe, about, I guess, different kind of, having intruders, maybe that being a concern. But something we haven't considered really is the possibility of, God forbid, there's a fire or something, and there are products out there that can help with that too. One of the interesting devices, and it's pretty expensive, but it's cool what it does, is it's a standard smoke alarm, the Nest Protect smoke and carbon monoxide alarm. And these generally retail around the €100 mark, a little over sometimes, but so they are expensive, but they're basically talking smoke alarms. So if you have, smoke alarms in different parts of the house and, all of a sudden, whatever reason, they're all beeping at you, it will tell you where the incident is, that, there's smoke or there's carbon monoxide in the kitchen, let's say, for example. It has a lot of other features. It can tell you when its battery is low instead of you having a chirp, and of course, like all smart things, it will send a notification, to the Nest app if something happens while you're away, or you can even silence the alarm if you need to from the app. Let's pretend you've just burnt the toast. It's something I've done, unfortunately, on more occasions than I'd like to admit, but
good point. I'd believe it, David. I'd say you've burnt the toast many times.
Oh, thanks, Joe. Thanks. Yeah, it does happen, unfortunately. Let's not. Yeah, it
it's
does
a good
happen,
point, though. There isn't anything more annoying than the smoke alarm going off when you're cooking. But yeah, it's good to know how to silence these things as well. Just temporarily, of course.
And it's exactly, and you hit the nail on the head, is that it's temporary, because that I've seen people before that they burn the toast and they'll take the battery out of the alarm, and then the concern is, well, how long before that battery will go back into that alarm then? And then if something does happen, you're quite literally playing with fire.
Well, there you go. There's a benefit of the device being smart already.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely. I mean, yes, it's an expensive device, but pretty cool at the same time. So yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
I think if you're talking, it's around €100. I think some of the carbon monoxide alarms, the certified ones that you have to get now, are between €60 and €80 anyway from most hardware stores. So
are they?
You're talking, yeah, you can get really cheap ones, but I think the ones that are recommended by HAP and things like that, they are between €60 and €80. So you're not talking that much more to get a smart version,
Yeah.
I know they've gone up in price in the last few years, so I think it's worth thinking about when you're upgrading smoke alarms and things like that in the next year or two. It is worth considering the smart versions.
And especially when, you consider, like, we're only touching on some of the features today, but they've got motion sensors for smart lights. They've got, simple things like if you have a Nest, thermostat and the fire alarm goes off or there's carbon monoxide, it can also disable your heating, which is something really simple. But, it all works together to make the home a little bit safer and a little bit more secure, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah, exactly. So that's what it's all about. It's just giving you that extra peace of mind and having just that extra control,
Absolutely,
over your own area. And I was just going to mention the subscriptions are very similar. I know we were probably monopolizing things by mentioning Nest and Amazon here, but they are the most popular and probably the most accessible at the moment. So forgive us if people have other options out there and that they use and they prefer. They can always message us in and let us know. But the price range for their subscription options are very similar. It's $3.99, I think, with Google at the moment for the basic package. And then if you have extra devices you want to monitor around, it's €10 a month. And then it's similar with Ring Connect as well. So if you have only one device like the Ring Video Doorbell, I think it's €3 the last time I checked. It could be gone up with the inflation, but something like €3 for the basic package, and it's €10 again for the multiple camera package, so Ring Connect Plus. So yeah. There your rough price range. I know prices are subject to change all the time, but you're not talking much more than £10 a month to maybe keep an eye on events on 3 or 4 different cameras, we'll say. So which could be. Well, hopefully you wouldn't ever need
especially
it, but
if you've
it can be
someone
useful.
living at home, that might be worth it to you. It has a different worth to everyone, and you have to make that call for yourself. But it does have there is a value there. It's up to you to decide then whether that value is worth it for you. Joe, thanks so much for running through all the smart home stuff. Don't go anywhere, because we'll be moving right over to chat to you now about the phone in just a second. But I'm going to bring in, no bother, thanks Joe. I'm going to now bring in the wonderful host that is Mr. Daniel Dunn. Daniel, how are you?
Hi, thanks, David. Thanks very much. That's a very interesting discussion there. With all the,
it's amazing, isn't it? It is. Like just the amount of security options that are out there, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, in fairness, the innovation around these continues apace, and there's new devices. Well, I suppose existing devices becoming smart is happening all the time. So this technology is branching out into just more and more regular day items that we can use.
And are you using the Ring bell yourself, or have you gone down that road yet yourself?
And not using it myself, but I suppose where I kind of got across you there earlier, just to mention about if you had a vulnerable family member maybe that was living at home and you wanted to keep a check in on who was coming to their door, that is something I have set up. So if somebody calls to their house, my phone will also get a little alert when to push the doorbell button at the house, and I can also view in and see who's there, just to make sure that everything's above board. Make sure it's the postman, make sure it's the milkman, or whoever's supposed to be there, and that no one's not supposed to be there. So it does and it gives them peace of mind too, because they know that there's somebody kind of has their back,
that can keep an eye on it. Like,
yeah, exactly. But it's great to see all this innovation and everything taking place afoot. Like smart technology, I know you kind of probably came at it from an angle there, security in the home, but there's so much more coming on the tracks as well. More and more household appliances themselves are becoming smart, but I suppose that's a discussion for another day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, on that note, one of the ways that you can interact with your smart home, of course, is through your mobile phone. And Joe has been testing out the iPhone SE, the new iPhone SE for us. And Daniel, I'll hand over to you to chat to Joe on the new iPhone SE.
Joe, so you're back up again for another piece. So you have the Apple iPhone SE 2022. So I think the last one that was out was the SE 2020, and then they had the first edition SE before that. I don't think they had a year on that particular one. So this is the third iteration of the SE. Am I right in saying?
This is the third version of the SE. You're correct there, Daniel. I suppose they brought out the third version. The SE is very popular, especially with vision impaired people, because it has a home button.
Yes.
And a lot of us voiceover users love the home button. Apart from having Touch ID, I suppose it's a good landmark on your phone.
It is.
And it's good to have that home button as well for the shortcut of turning on or off voiceover, and you can press it 3 times and that kind of thing. So the home button is probably one of the reasons the SE is so popular.
Yeah. And how long have you been using this SE 2022 for, Joe?
Well, I'm only using this a week, so it's fairly fresh. In my hand, but I'm quite impressed with it already.
Very good, very good. What's the standout improvements on the model, I suppose, over what just went before there 2 years ago on the SE 2020? So is there any kind of notable improvements? I know often the marketing guys will come out with their stats and the whole lot, but I think when you get it in your hand is really when the difference is told.
Yeah, it has an A15 bionic chip, so that mightn't mean much to a lot of people, but I suppose the phone, it's a better processor, so it works a little bit faster than the previous version. And because it has the new chip, they say the chip works better with the battery, so the battery lasts a bit longer as well. So I'd say
good.
the previous, I had the SE, the first version. That version, I'd be struggling to get a day out of the battery on that one. That was
Is
the
that
biggest
the
complaint.
2020 or the one before it?
The one before it. I think the biggest problem with that phone was was the battery, and the fact the chip didn't suit the phone, and the processor was too heavy on the battery, and people were only getting a day at the most out of the phone, especially a heavy user. So I find like a day and a half to 2 days out this battery before I have to charge it, which is quite good. It all depends again if you're a really, really intense user of the phone. It just depends how much you will get out of it, especially voiceover users. We're using the speaker all the time on the phone, and it will. You have to keep that in mind. It will use up the battery a little bit quicker.
Absolutely. I have to say now, a family member here has the SE 2020, and now extremely heavy user, and like it's being used nearly on the charge at this rate.
I get you. Yeah, I know what you're saying. This does charge a little bit quicker as well. So you can for 30 minutes charge, you can get 50% battery, which is quite good, I suppose. Like if you're in the office and you need to go out for a while to do some tasks or assessments, and you're at lunchtime, you can charge it for the 30 minutes, and you have the rest of the day. Then at least you have charge for the rest of the day. So that's a good bonus. I find the fact that it connects to 5G really good, because anytime I'm downloading an app from the App Store, it downloads within seconds. I noticed that it downloads a lot quicker. It downloads the apps a lot quicker. I haven't downloaded many other files with it or things like that. I've done a little bit of streaming. I tried it on Netflix and works perfect. Loads up the videos really quick.
That comes from the 5G, is it?
Yeah. So that works fine. And Apple TV Plus works really well on that as well. So I tested on a couple of streaming apps and had no issues with it that way. So and as you know yourself, this is nothing to do with the phone. The audio description on Apple TV is really good. So that was worth trying out, and I found that good. So first of all, we've covered
any other impressions there that kind of stood out for you as well? So with the 5G, with the faster processing times, slightly or a good bit better battery life, remains to be seen.
I'd say it's a good bit better so far.
Okay.
Not massively better, but at least definitely half a day better.
Good.
And obviously there's some days I use the phone less than others, but I didn't have to charge it every day, put it that way.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It's more durable as well than the previous version. Thankfully, I haven't tested how durable it is, but I'm told it's more durable, and that's always a bonus, because look, I've had a few stumbles I've had a few stumbles with phones in the past, and they've chipped and cracked and things like that. So if it's anyway more durable than the previous version, that'll do me fine. And it's waterproof to a certain level. Dustproof as well.
As I always say about smartphones, they don't jump or they don't swim. So try and avoid those situations. But look, it is always a concern, like an accidental fall off the ground. Is always a big worry. Oh no, is the screen smashed on it and things like that. So look, I think it's user beware at the end of the day, but it's nice to know that they do improve, I suppose, the strengths of them with each passing model.
Yeah, without a doubt. The camera I haven't noticed any major difference with the camera. I find the camera on most iPhones is really good anyway. I don't think this doesn't have LiDAR, so I can't test door detection or anything like that. But it's worked perfect with Scene AI or any of the other apps that I normally use. I've used Be My Eyes, and people have no problem with the camera. And the fact you have a better connection, if you're doing the FaceTime calls or the Be My Eyes calls, that's important. Yeah, and it does
that's
give
very
a
important
better
for
video.
The person at the other end who's maybe trying to give you sighted assistance.
It's helping you out,
that they can see clearly maybe what's on it. I've actually done a few support calls in my days, using FaceTime or WhatsApp video call and things like that. And you're just hoping that the person at the other end has got a good connection, that you can get information back as clearly as need be to help them out. tell me, out of the box, what was the setup of the phone like, Joe? So, opening the box and getting your cables, I think they've done away with the charger on this one as well, have they?
Yeah, just going to say that there was a charging cable in the box, in fairness, but there was no plug, so you have to use the plug from your previous device, which is no problem. I have loads of those around at this stage.
Yeah.
So it's just you can plug the connector into your laptop or Mac if you want to do as well, that kind of thing. So charger, yeah, it was fine. Setting up really easy. When you turn on the device, you can turn on voiceover by pressing the home key 3 times just to make sure voiceover is on, and then it'll pop up on the screen. How do you want to set this up? And you can choose that you want to set it up from your previous iPhone, and then there's on your previous iPhone, then little options will pop up, and they'll ask you to try and get the new phone in the square. So basically, hold the camera of your old phone above your new phone, and I hold it up about 6 inches, level with the phone, and it recognised the little circles that is supposed to recognise, and then they started transferring.
It's nearly like a QR code or something, isn't it?
A little bit like a QR code, Apple's version of it, yeah. And then it asked me, did I want to transfer the data from my old phone to the new phone, and I said yes, and it was a process. It just takes time, and so it was simple enough. It was easy enough, and then I went through the case of I typed in my Apple ID and password, and I set up with Touch ID, and I set up Hey Siri, and a few other things that I had on the old phone. The setup was quite good, quite easy.
You realise now you're after setting my phone off here and my iPad
and everybody else's. Yeah,
and everybody else.
Apologise to all our listeners. Yeah, but hopefully we didn't activate too much shortcuts or anything there, Daniel. But yeah, so I think that and my one was going off there in the background as well. So yeah, that was quite an easy process. It takes time, of course. You know what I mean? 15-20 minutes altogether, because even longer if you have more memory on it. So once it transfers all the photos, you can also have the option, instead of transferring from one phone to the other, you can set the phone up from a backup of iCloud or from iCloud or whatever. So you have a couple of options, just in case you lost your old phone or anything like that. You have a couple of options. You can set up from a backup from iCloud or transfer from your old phone. So it's important to back up your old phone every now and again too.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is indeed. And just going back there to the charging cable that you got with it, Joe. The USB, right? It's the Lightning port. I presume they're going ahead with at the iPhone end. And back
USB.
At the USB end, was it USB A or C?
USB-C.
Yeah, so so you might need to get, if you don't have a USB-C charger in the house.
True.
You might have to invest in one of them.
Yeah, you might have to invest in one of those, all right. Some of the laptops now would have that on them for charging, all right. But if you want to charge it in the wall, you'll have to invest in a plug. It depends where you buy it. It can be expensive for the plug as well. I don't have the prices off the top of my head, but I know you won't get much. You won't get anything for less than €20 these days.
Yeah, no, there is. I know
generally
there is
around 20 quid
adapters as well.
Yeah, sometimes around 20 quid. Unless you buy from Apple, it could be a bit more. But yeah, generally around the 20 quid upwards, I suppose. Say that, Daniel, again.
There is actually, maybe if you do have a lot of older style USB-A plugs, which I can probably without doubt say everybody has. And you don't have a USB-C plug, but you can get the USB-A to C adapter.
That's handy,
which would convert your old charger into the new USB-C, because I think everything is going that way now to USB-C. I had an iPhone there, I have an Apple Watch that has the USB charger, and I put the USB-C into the Apple Watch charger in the wall. So that's the other. That was the USB-C charger. That's the solution I had. So I didn't go out and buy a new charger that way. But but sometimes you will need a second one. You know what I mean? If you're charging the two devices at once. Yeah.
So I find that could be handy.
Actually, came across you know, the in-car chargers. There's these new very fast chargers that take advantage of the cigarette adapter port that's in cars, and this little one I got it, I think it was Home Store or more, somewhere like that, and it has both USB A and C on it. So
Oh,
it's
very
brilliant
good.
for the it was brilliant for the newer iPhone that I actually just said, oh, here's a USB-C to Lightning iPhone charging cable, so that stays in the car.
Yeah,
Just for
that's
that.
handy.
Yeah, it's very handy. That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
so
That.
in general, overall, anyone upgrading their phone, I would recommend the iPhone SE 2022. I suppose the main selling points of it, it's better battery life. Excuse me. It has faster charging. It can connect to 5G networks, and it has the Touch ID button, of course. So loads of people, as I said, still love the Touch ID. So
Yeah.
that can be handy. Face ID is working fine, and just some people don't like it, and
Yeah.
finding doing that touch thing to unlock phones, move your finger up along until you hear feel a little vibration. It just doesn't suit some people. So the Touch ID is still great to have it.
Absolutely.
Is there any features you think it's missing, Joe? Like from any of the newer phones? Like I know you mentioned there that it didn't have LiDAR for the door detection, but outside of that, is there any features that you think the phone is missing that maybe if there's an SE 2023, maybe Apple could consider adding that?
I think at this stage, I think just the LiDAR could be included. Like if they're going to release a phone the same year with the Touch ID button as the iPhone 14 Pro or iPhone 14, I just think they could improve things with the camera at that end. I don't see why not, And I think there is a reason they're offering phones with Touch ID. So why exclude people that use Touch ID from these features? Other than that, I can't think. There's no features on it other than that I'm missing at the moment. I can use everything I need to use. I'm not a basic user or anything. I have 60 or 70 apps on my phone, and I don't have trouble using that many of them. You know what I mean? I think nearly all of them are accessible on my phone. So I find I don't have anything on the phone that I will always look for better battery life and stuff like that. But that'll come too in time.
Yeah.
And
even
Joe,
better.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, how much of a factor do you think is screen size with the iPhone SE? So a lot of the other iPhones will have screens over 6 inches, or even 6.7 inches in some of the, for example, the 14 Pro Max. But if you're looking at, say, a 4.7 inch screen on the SE, is that any factor for you, or is that okay?
For me, I like the smaller screen. It's a little less real estate to cover, with your thumb. So I can reach from one part to the other fairly easily. I can imagine someone with vision impairment would love an SE version with a bigger screen, maybe 5.7 or 6.7. That could be an improvement, David. As we said, for some people, you might prefer a bigger screen on a Touch ID phone, But I like the fact that it's this size, and I wouldn't change it. You know what I mean? Not on this version. They could have an iPhone. You could maybe dream up an iPhone SE 2022 Pro version. You know what I mean? Or 2023 Pro version by the time it does come out, and then that might be bigger. Do you know what I mean? That could be an option going forward. But I think the size of the screen for me is perfect. It fits in the pocket lovely as well. Sometimes with phones that are too big, they won't fit into a shirt pocket or your jeans pocket very well if they're too big, So you have to get the happy medium.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Very good point, Joe. Joe, look, it was lovely speaking to you there about the new iPhone SE 2022. I suppose it looks set to continue as one of the favorites of the visually impaired community users out there. So it's good to, I suppose, discuss the improvements and the changes over the previous model, and a lot of that sounds very good. So thank you very, very much for taking the time out to review the phone and come on here and tell us all about it today. So with that, I'll hand back over to you, David.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, it is great to see just improvements to the phone like that. So thanks a million, Joe. And Joe, guess what? You're getting a bit of a break now, so you can relax there a little bit. We worked you hard there for the last two topics, so you can have a break now. We're gonna jump ship. We're sticking with Apple though. All Apple things today. Also, along with the new iPhone SE 2022. There have been new AirPods released recently, the AirPods Pro 2s. And someone who's been using the AirPods Pros is Pádraig Barnes. And Pádraig joins us to tell us all about them. Hello, Pádraig.
Dave, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad. And yourself?
Feeling a bit of imposter syndrome here, Dave, listening to all these tech guys. I'd be a very basic user by comparison, but listen, I'll give my basic user's perspective anyway.
Well, do you know what? It's an important perspective because sometimes we can chat about, all the fancy bits and bobs, but sometimes, it is the basic stuff that matters, isn't it?
No, that's fair. And I diving right into it, Dave. I mean, I got it wrong straight away. I was offered as a present a pair of AirPods Pros, and I looked at it. I looked at the price, and I said, I can't. Now, you might correct me if I'm wrong, or Joe or Daniel. I think they were upwards on about €270.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're expensive headphones.
I just couldn't. And again, there was the fear around losing them because my ear doesn't seem to particularly house or home these various different ear devices as well. So I went for the second gen, a cheaper version of the AirPods. And again, I saved myself a bit of money. But the rationale for getting them, Dave, was to use them with Soundscape.
Yeah.
And that was very Soundscape and navigation for walking around. And it really doesn't suit the older model, or the cheaper model, I should say, in my opinion, of the AirPods, because you were locking out all the ambient sound. And I really, to be honest with you, it was quite a scary experience. So I'm walking up the road with my guide dog and these, cheaper version of the AirPods. You can't hear the traffic. You can't hear people coming towards you. It really didn't. It didn't feel safe. So with my tail between my legs, I flogged the second gen AirPods, and I got the Pros. And yeah, they're absolutely great. So as usual, as a basic user, Dave, I got it wrong before I got it right,
Well, look, you corrected course. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. There might have been a bit of expense involved, but you corrected course, which is good. So I guess just from your point of view, you mentioned there that, you can hear your surroundings better with the Pros, but what other kind of differences have you noticed between the two models then, I guess?
Well, that is the main one for me, Dave. And it's not just out and about. Now, it sounds very privileged, and I wasn't on an aeroplane for the previous 2 years. But one thing I find now that we've all post-COVID, we have the opportunity to fly if we so choose. I find the humming of the jet, that background noise in the airplane, I find it very hard to hear what's going on. And the Pros, the cancellation, the noise cancellation, it works really well there, because I had a tendency to turn the volume up on my previous AirPods, and then I kept on getting notifications saying, "Look, you're exceeding the threshold of what we consider to be safe listening." So I suppose what I'm trying to say is it's possible to lower the volume on the AirPod Pros, but still have a really good quality of experience by using the noise cancellation, which filters out all the ambient or the background noise. Now, outside of airplanes, even I'm not great at watching TV because, there are other family members, audio description annoys them. So I find a lot of the time, I'm using my AirPod Pros and I'm watching the TV on Sky Go. But, at least if you put on the transparent mode of the AirPods, you can be part of the conversation in the room around what's going on the TV. You're not completely hushing people because you can't hear what they're saying or ask them to talk up. So they're really useful from that point of view. And the final thing is, if you're in the gym, it's really handy. Again, you've got the turner. I used to turn up the volume to the max on other ear devices to drown out the sound of the machines. And again, getting those notifications in telling me I was at dangerous levels and to turn it down. So really, they've been great from all those points of view,
And how do you find, simple things like, listening to music or listening to television? Is the audio quality outside of, outside of the noise cancellation or the transparency, is the general sound quality decent enough?
Oh, it's a beautiful quality. It really is. Now, I have mild, and I think you and I might have had this discussion before. I would be less impressed with the quality of the microphone results, and even it's even as I talk to you now, it's the old-fashioned AirPods or earbuds, I should say, that I'm using. Now that's disappointing. That I suppose the quality of the listening experience isn't matched by the quality of the microphone, because I've had lots of people just doing routine work calls on the phone. I've had a lot of people saying, gosh, could you repeat that? Could you? So obviously the quality of the mic isn't as good perhaps as I would like. That's only a personal opinion. I'm sure, Daniel or Joe or yourself, Dave, you may have a different perspective.
I have to. I'll be honest. I try to remain impartial with these things, but I have to agree with you, because even something as simple as if you're sending, voice notes on WhatsApp, yes, I'm one of those people. Sorry in advance. But if you're sending, voice notes or like that in a call or something like that, it doesn't sound great. I've even come to a point where if I'm trying to use dictation, the actual Apple dictation system can't understand me from the AirPods microphone, which is pretty bad, unfortunately. It says a lot in itself, doesn't it?
David, can I come in there? Yeah.
You can, Joe, yeah.
Yeah, I think dictation, unfortunately, has gotten a little bit worse in the last year or so, I find. Whether it's the quality of the microphone or not, I don't really think that's the issue. I think it's the phone that's receiving it. They've messed around a little bit with the dictation. And I find after you press the dictate button, sometimes I might miss the first word, or you might press stop dictation and might cut off the last word, or even if it makes a little bit of a mess in the middle, you have to go back and fix it. So at times I think dictation, we do it to be quicker, and it's easier than typing on the touch screen, but then it can beat the point because you have to go back and fix stuff sometimes. So hopefully Apple will concentrate on dictation going forward a little bit more, because it will make our lives a little bit easier.
And fixing the microphone in the AirPods too, because my thinking on it, I recently used the microphone on the Apple Watch, which would be similarly not as small as an AirPod, mind you, but it would be a small device, and surely they can shrink a microphone to get a decent quality microphone into the AirPods, you would think.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I hadn't had much problem with the microphone, but I don't use them as much as I do a Jabra headset. But yeah, I can get what you're saying. It is a little bit high up on your cheek, I suppose, and it's not directly in front of your mouth either. So it will always be difficult, I say, to get the sound really good on it.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So yeah, just to add, I have the AirPods Pro 2 as well, and I'd agree with almost everything Pádraig said there. So to get the quality, additional quality or out of soundscape, you really do have to have the transparency mode, so that was one. What about charging, Pádraig? How did you get on with charging the product? Do you have an Apple Watch charger? Did you try it out on that?
Yeah, really good. And I was listening to your previous, and it's great to learn these things, USB-A and USB-C chargers. I have 3 different, because I have one magnetic, but by at least getting the new AirPod Pros, I now have 2 chargers that I can work from that use the same wire. Direct answer to your question, Joe, I find it holds the charge really well. And particularly if you're out and about for the day, and even if you're using it very, very heavily, God, I'm beginning to be very privileged here, going back to the aeroplane and first foreign holiday in 3 years. And you're on the beach, you're listening to your book, listening to your podcast or whatever it is, like you will get the full day out of the AirPods, because as you guys probably know better than I do, the case charges as well, and it's just easier. The chargeability of the newer devices has vastly improved, because there's nothing as frustrating as going out and then your device isn't charged. So very good on that score, I'd say, Joe.
Yeah, I think that the case holds something like 30 hours of charge, and then you have 5 hours listen time in the actual AirPods themselves, and
I think in practice it's even more than that, to be honest. That's like the stated, right, but it's actually even more than that. I've certainly used them for longer than 5 hours consistently without issue.
A couple of other features, David. You can sit the charging case on top of your Apple Watch charging puck, the little puck you get for charging your watch, the little flat wireless charger. You can you can sit the case on top of that to charge as well, Pádraig, if you want to try that.
Oh, wow.
Which is handy. It's a bit easier than looking around for connectors if you, in the middle of the night or whatever. So also it gives you, when the case is getting low, it lets off a little notification or a little beep sound to let you know that the case is getting low, and when the case is fully charged, it also beeps. So there are a couple of handy things for anyone that's vision impaired that isn't relying on looking at the lights that appear on the device. So at least we have some audio signals now.
That's really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, with the exception of the aforementioned microphone, it really is going in the right direction. One other thing, Dave, if there's time, I found the setup, because I have a very self-defeating kind of mindset around technology. I assume that something is going to go wrong, and when you assume something goes, it probably will go wrong. So I googled the setup of the AirPod Pros, and it said you simply open the case, rub it against the phone, bring it in contact with the phone, and hey presto, you are linked to your new listening device. Of course, it didn't work for me, and I went, typical. But I actually googled it. The problem was that I hadn't updated my phone, so the fault was with myself. As usual, not the technology. I hadn't updated the iOS, and I was right. So I updated. I said, "Betcha, it still won't work." And hey, presto, it did. And that is
Brilliant.
Wonderful for a guy with kind of low kind of savvy, low smarts when it comes to these things, to be able to set it up yourself and not have to wait until, such and such a cranky daughter comes around. Sorry if she's listening, and I'm sure she's not. But, not to be leaning on other people to help you set up these devices,
For sure.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. That's a great point, isn't it, Dave?
It really is, and it's a good point to make, because there can be a fear around a lot of these things. That setup or that initial process can be daunting, but it has worked pretty well, and it is quite a seamless experience, it must be said. But Pádraig, I'm going to ask you now the killer question: is it worth the price now? They are, as you said yourself, they were expensive devices, and they did turn you off the product initially. But now that you've had a chance to use it, let's say they were to stop working in the morning, would you go again?
You know, I suspect the answer is yes, they're worth it. For the soundscape, which I haven't fully, but you know, just to be walking around and being able, you know, even for me, it gives you control over you're walking along and it's telling you that's Vodafone on your right, you know, and I have a greater sense of some of the places that I'm walking around. And that for me in itself, because I was very disappointed with Soundscape when I started using it first with the older version of the AirPods. So for that reason mainly, I think it's a yes for me. The direction now, it's a look at we all have, you know, different means, you know, etc. But you know, in this particular instance, because I got a present of them, I would say yes. They're expensive, but for me, from a navigation point of view, out there in the big bad world, where you really need to feel safe and secure, like Joe and the lads were talking about home security, I always feel reasonably secure at home. The place that I don't feel secure is out when I'm walking the streets of Ennis here, and they're very helpful from that point of view. So sorry for the long-winded answer, Dave. Yeah, I think they're worth it for sure.
Fantastic. Pádraig, thank you so much for chatting to us today. Much appreciated. And for those who are wondering, at current retail price, and this is something, and we'll be talking about Black Friday in a minute, and we don't seem to have any Black Friday deals on this at the moment, but the current retail price, of course, subject to change, is €299. So expensive for sure.
Yeah.
But if it's worth it to you, and as you say, Pádraig, you know, everyone has different means, and you know, it might be worth it for you, it might not. But again, that's a call you have to make yourself. Pádraig, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me on, Dave. Cheers.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. So there we have it. There we have it. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Pádraig, for chatting to us. We do have one more topic to go on the show. We've been talking about prices, but prices, they're coming down this Friday. It's Black Friday. It's big sales week. Some places have sales for the whole week, some just on Friday. But we've got our resident sales expert, our deals man. We've got Daniel Dunn. Daniel, what's happening? What's going down in price?
Thanks very much for that introduction, David. Yeah, basically, I've about 40 tabs open here on my browser, so I'm just going to take a whirlwind tour throughout these. First thing I noticed, just going around, not everybody's doing a Black Friday sale or deal, but you can bet your bottom dollar that all the big guns are. They're all vying for that euro that's a little bit harder to come by this year, as we all well know. So I'm going to start off, and every year we've done this, I think this is our third or fourth year covering the Black Friday deals. We kind of have a look at the best of what's online, and then we just go across to our bricks and mortar stores, because at the end of the day, it's important to support our local shops as well where possible. But let's start off, I suppose, with the big one of all, Amazon. Amazon, actually, I was impressed with how easy it is to find their Black Friday deals. So they have Black Friday week instead of Black Friday day. It's Black Friday week. It's not even a week. It's 10 days. So apart from all that confusion at the start, but when you get in there, I do like how they have displayed all the different categories that they have on offer. So it was very nice to I suppose drill down through the site, find maybe what you might be interested in, and have a look into different categories. So just to go over that Black Friday week, it's running from the 18th to the 28th of November, so we're well underway with that at the moment. And just had a quick look around to see was there anything major on the smart plugs, keeping in theme with what we were speaking about earlier. €9.24 for a smart plug from TCP. Not sure if that's major saving. I've seen them just retail even in some bricks and mortar shops for a tenner. Amazon said they were 15, they're down to 9.24. Yeah, probably sounds like a good saving there, but still you could pick it up at more or less the same price in a bricks and mortar. So skipping on past that, there is a few good deals though to be had on Wi-Fi and networking devices. Maybe you want to extend the range of your Wi-Fi at home, or you need a particular solution for that. So, to have a TP-Link AC 1200, it's down from €40 down to 25, and 25 and 41 cent. So that might be good, stick in a room where the Wi-Fi signal is weak or poor. Moving on, then we did have the discussion earlier, guys, with your home security devices, and one of the devices that Joe kind of spoke about heavily was the Ring video doorbell. And I have a wired version that's on Black Friday deal. It's 30% off. It's down from €57.76 back down to €40.43. So that's quite a good little deal there in itself.
That's a really good deal there.
Yeah. And the outdoor camera. So remember, we were saying maybe you want to keep an eye on the back garden, the sheds or something like that. That one there, 33% off, down from 103.97 to 69.31. So that's quite a save in there as well. That's the Ring outdoor camera battery. And look, there's lots more. They have the floodlight cam. I think Joe spoke about that. Down from 200 to 138.64. Was 207.96. Now 138.64. So
that's excellent, Daniel.
Yeah, nice saving there to be had. Look, there's so many of these there that I could spend the rest of the show just literally talking in that category. Well, I suppose it's just to mention these in passing.
You didn't find a light bulb on your travels, did you, Daniel?
I didn't go into the light bulb department, but they definitely do have that there.
Yeah, just thinking it might be a good. It depends on what situation you have. You might have Hive heating system at home, maybe Hive light bulbs or Philips light bulbs, maybe, or something might be cheaper. It might be a good time to buy a couple, because investing in light bulbs in your house, it can get very expensive if you have 6-7 rooms. It can go into the hundreds. So it might be a good time for people to look at light bulbs. But light bulbs are a personal preference also, because you might need a certain brightness if you have a vision impairment, or you might need one that changes color. Things like that. So it might be a good time for people to look even at light bulbs, apart from smart plugs, light bulbs.
Exactly. Yeah, they're definitely one to look out for there. And also, I suppose, if you do live in a household where you have kids who are forever leaving light bulbs on in rooms and whatnot, maybe it's no harm to have a smart bulb in their bedroom, and you're downstairs and you hear them coming down the stairs, and they think, I won't say her name, but please turn off bulb in such a room.
There you go.
I think you could actually, with all the price rises recently in the electricity bills, that if you did have one of these smart bulbs in your kids' room, you will probably save a good proportion of those price increases by having a smart bulb and switching it off from downstairs.
For sure. So, and it's 47% off on Philips Hue bulbs at the moment from Amazon here. I'm just looking at it in front of me. So there is good savings to be had there. So
that's good.
It is certainly
one of the more popular brands, David.
Yeah, a more expensive, but we use them at home, and they're pretty good quality. They're really stable as well. Never disconnect.
Actually, here's one now. And speaking of the Philips Hue smart bulb, right? I'm just going to speak about the Echo Show, the Echo Show 5, the second generation, which is last year's release. And that's with a 53% discount, down from €86.64 to €40.43. But you also have the option for £5 sterling, which probably costs €6. Throw on a Philips Hue smart bulb with that at the checkout.
Yeah, the only thing is just to make sure that when you're selecting your bulb, make sure you get the right fitting for whether it's your Edison screw or your bayonet screw bulbs. You make sure you get the right fitting. I made that mistake before.
If you buy the wrong fitting, David, you can buy an adapter. Like Daniel loves his adapter, so you can buy an adapter as well in your local hardware store.
I'm sure, but that's extra money. You don't want that, Joe.
Yeah. No, it'd be right to get it right the first time if you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the most of the ones we use here are B27 fittings, aren't they? And
Yeah, I think we're a B22 now in the
22.
bedroom. So yeah.
Okay, so just to double check on that. So that was my whirlwind tour of Amazon. I did like that. The Echo Show 5, they're being offered at €40.43. And if you're an existing Amazon Prime customer, you get your delivery free charge. So you save a bit there on that, because that's where a lot of the expense now in buying off the internet is actually getting them shipped to you. Courier charges or postage charges often they're gone very expensive in some quarters. Anyway, moving on, we did cover a good bit of Apple earlier.
Yep.
And Apple have their shopping event 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. So they're not running for as long as the guys across in Amazon. So it all kicks off this Friday and runs over the weekend, as opposed to Cyber Monday, which is traditionally the Monday after Black Friday, and this year is the 28th of November. Now, there's no real prices changes in the Apple Store, but if you do buy items from them, you're getting, let's say, with an iPhone 13, 13 mini, iPhone 12 or iPhone SE, they give you a €50 Apple gift card. So you do get that, I suppose, for your next purchase or for using the App Store or whatever. With the AirPods, the guys, you were going through them there a few minutes ago. You're getting a €75 Apple gift card there with that. The Apple Watch SE, a €50 gift card there. iPads, up to a €50 Apple gift card. I suppose depends on which of the iPads you get. There's plenty of models.
Yeah, so Daniel, if you're buying an iPad, we'll say the most recent 10th generation one, and you fancy getting a keyboard with it, you could buy the iPad and then you use your €50 or whatever amount of euros you get, maybe 75 towards the Folio.
Yes.
Keyboard, maybe towards the Folio keyboard, and then you have your iPad laptop experience with your keyboard and iPad. So that could be an offer. Or if you're doing Christmas shopping, at least you'll have the vouchers to go towards something for Christmas for someone else. That'd be a nice present, wouldn't it?
Exactly. If you know an Apple user and maybe you're buying yourself an iPhone upgrade or whatever, and somebody else is a hardcore Apple fan, and a €50 gift voucher is a lovely gift to receive as well for somebody else. Just also to add on to that, €250 up to €250 if you're buying some of the Mac products. So that's just if you are planning maybe to buy something high end from the Apple offering. Just maybe have a look over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or next Monday, and take advantage of the gift card offerings. So that was some of the online only retailers that I found. So maybe I'll take a look now next to our local bricks and mortar store. So I'm just going to take a tour by DID Electrical. And here's something now that really, really caught my eye. And I suppose this will be of great benefit maybe to low vision service users who just want a basic enough laptop, but they like the idea of a 17.3-inch screen. So there's an offering from the idea Lenovo. It's a 17.3-inch screen, 4 gig of RAM, 128 gig solid state hard disk space, or solid state drive space. And I know that's kind of limited, 128. You're not going to fill it up with photos and videos and things like that. But
that 4 gig of RAM is a bit stiff as well for something like Zoom Text, but it's a good entry level potentially.
It's a good entry level potential, just something that maybe you would happily use Windows inbuilt Zoom and things like that. $389, and you're saving €80, so it's down from $470 down to $389. I think that's quite a good deal on a 17.3-inch screen.
The screen is the big seller there. Like that RAM isn't fantastic, but if it's just the screen you need and you were just going to use it for maybe emails and Microsoft Word, that might be a handy option for you. Absolutely. And also DID, what they had there on offer, which I thought was a fantastic offer, was a 23.8-inch computer monitor for $129, down from $169.
Somebody might like to bring their laptop over and have a second screen connected onto their laptop, or replace the existing 17-inch screen on their household PC. I don't think it's a very big splash out just to get something of that, just shy of 24 inches of a screen. So I did like that. That's Huawei brand, and that's available in the AAD. A standard regular laptop, again, there seems to be an awful lot of basic laptops out there on offer. This Asus VivoBook, again, it's a 4 gig 128 storage, but it's a 15.6-inch screen, and this is going for $279. So that's another one from the bricks and mortar. And before I finish with that's the finish with the ID. Oh, I did forget on my online stores to mention Google. I had the wrong order, so apologies for that. There's good savings if you go to store.google.com. The Google Wi-Fi repeater $55.99. They have Nest products down from $129 to $118. Plenty to go through there. It's definitely worth having a look at the Google offerings as well. So I really have to try and move through these and conscious of the time. Expert Electrical is another popular retailer. They have another laptop there. It's a 14-inch screen. This one, it's $259. They're okay as for a light user. A Doro flip phone, they were quite popular in order to push button phone, but they're basic. $44.95 on offer there in Expert as well. Harvey Norman, he also has a big Black Friday sale on. I just so much stuff there to go through. And finally, Aftershok's Open Move, they're on offer there. They're down from $79.95, $63.95 is online offer as well. So I know they're a very, very popular headphone. They're a Bluetooth bone conductive headphone that's out there. There's tons of offerings out there on headphones. I think everybody is selling headphones as their door stopper this year and in Black Friday. So look, there's plenty to savor out there. It's the week for it. If you are looking for something, it's definitely worth taking the search this week to take advantage.
I think I better start getting my Christmas shopping rightly underway this weekend, Daniel.
Yeah. And I suppose just one thing, just for safety, and just to be conscious of this to everybody who's thinking of shopping online for Black Friday and that, just to be extra careful on offers that sound too good to be true. Usually are. Always double check the links that you're going through on. I'd be particularly suspicious of emails coming in with ridiculous offers, and they sometimes click here to save €90 off a €100 product. That's kind of fairly out of this world for offers as to go. So I'd be double checking the links on that, just making sure that you're on a legitimate website. If you're kind of unfamiliar with who the company is that you're buying off of, do a little bit of research. There's nothing wrong in asking a friend. I'd rather be a little bit more embarrassed to ask my friend, am I on the right site here, rather than I'd be more embarrassed to tell him after, I got ripped off by buying off that website. I never fully checked out, So yeah. I'd always be really, really careful on what you're clicking through on links coming from email. Maybe advertisements that might pop up sometimes on social media. Just be a little bit extra cautious around them, and particularly if anything sounds too good to be true, usually is.
Fantastic. Daniel, thank you so much for that. We're certainly going to have to do some shopping, some safe shopping this weekend to get that Christmas sorted. And speaking of Christmas, that's basically it for us. But next show we'll be moving even closer to Christmas, so we'll probably be talking more about Mr. Santa Claus then. But JP, outside of Christmas chat, what do we have coming up on the next show?
Sure, David. So we have lots of topics coming up in the coming shows. We're going to have an update on SciTech Global, which is an accessibility conference, an annual accessibility conference. And on the show, we'll be joined by Brian Fischler, who is a blind comedian and podcaster, but he's also one of the hosts of SciTech Global. So they joined us last year. We had Ned Desmond, who's the co-founder of SciTech Global, join us, tell us about the conference and what's coming up. And it'll be the same this year when Brian joins us. So Brian will be telling us about companies like Google and Microsoft and LinkedIn and other big tech companies to tell us what they are doing to drive forward their efforts in digital inclusion. But it's all with a very much an AI slant, so which is very much a central theme to the conference this year and every year. So interestingly, Brian dubs himself as the world's funniest blind comedian and writer. So that he does point out this is a self-appointed title, but we're looking forward to having him on the show.
Still, it's a laudie title.
It certainly is. Following that, the next show, we're going to have an interview with Santiago Velasquez, who is a developer of the Halo. I'm going to spell that. It's HAILO, Halo app. And this app, which he's developed, the idea behind this app is that it alerts drivers when a person with a vision impairment wants to board a public transport. So, for example, if you're waiting for a bus, the idea is that you'll be able to alert the driver coming up that you are waiting at a bus stop, and that they'll take note of that. So, interesting concept. We're looking forward to finding out more about it on upcoming shows. And that's really run through the topics that we have coming up this year. Not many shows to go, believe it or not, before the end of the year.
We're near the end.
Yeah. Next show is Tuesday week.
JP, Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Well, that brings us to the end for this week's show. Thank you so much for listening. Very much appreciated. Thanks to all our guests, panelists as well today. We can't make the show without you guys. So thank you so much for that. If you do want to get in touch with the NCBI, maybe you need some tech support, or maybe you just want to chat to NCBI to get some help or make a referral, you can call 1800 911 250. That's 1800 911 250. If you do need tech support, feel free to email labs@ncbi.ie. You can also send feedback on the podcast to that email address. That's labs@ncbi.ie. If you've missed a part of the show, you can check out clips and the full show over on our YouTube channel, and do share that with your friends too. We'd love to grow the audience, so send it around, send it in all the WhatsApp groups, those email lists, get the word out, and thank you so much for your ongoing support. That is it from us this week. Thanks once again to all the guests. But for now, we're done. We shall see you closer to Christmas. Goodness me. We'll see you in December, on the 6th of December at 2:30. Thanks a million, and we'll see you then. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Technology podcast with NCBI Labs. If you would like to support our show, you can visit donate.ncbi.ie. The NCBI Labs Talking Technology podcast is proudly sponsored by IA Labs, the market leader in the provision of digital accessibility services.